Picture this. You are 71 and you feel fine. You sleep through the night, you walk every morning, your days belong to you. Then, at a routine physical, your doctor says 5 easy words. Let's run some tests, just to be safe. 6 weeks later, you are sitting across from a surgeon. Nothing was ever wrong with you. The test found a slow, harmless shadow. Your body was already keeping quiet on its own, and it was the treatment, not the disease, that took your good years. There was never a disease. Today, I will name the 5 tests where this story keeps repeating after 65, and the one question that would have stopped it before it started. I will give you that question near the end, once the machinery behind these 5 tests makes sense, because without that context, the question will not protect you. Stay with me all the way through. I am Dr. James Weatherly, and I spend my time explaining the things a 15-minute appointment never has room for, in plain language, for people over 60 who deserve the whole truth and not just a pamphlet. That is really the entire mission of this channel. Honest health information with nothing dumbed down and nothing hidden. If that sounds like something worth having in your week, take 1 second right now and subscribe. I am trying to reach more people over 60 who have been told to just follow the schedule and never shown the reasoning behind it. And every single subscriber genuinely helps the next person find this before their own cascade begins. Now let me be very clear about something before we go one step further, because I do not want to be misunderstood. Screening tests save lives. Colonoscopies, mammograms, blood pressure checks, these things have prevented enormous suffering. And if you are in your 50s or early 60s, most of them are firmly on your side. This video is not anti-medicine and it is not anti-doctor. This video is about a single quiet fact that almost nobody explains to patients. Every screening test has a hidden price tag, and after a certain age, the price starts going up while the benefit starts going down, until one day, without any announcement, the math flips. The test that protected you at 55 can start to threaten you at 77. Nobody sends you a letter when that happens. The reminder cards keep coming. The checkboxes stay on the form. And that is the real subject of today, learning to see the flip. Think of it like a warning light on your dashboard. A symptom is your body flashing a light, and I have made many videos about reading those signals, because a symptom means something real is happening. But a screening test is different. A screening test goes looking under the hood of a car that is running perfectly, and here is the part nobody says out loud. If you look under the hood of any car that has been on the road for 70 years, you will find things. Worn parts, odd shadows, little irregularities that have been there for decades and were never going to strand you on the highway. The question is never whether the mechanic will find something. The question is whether finding it helps you or hurts you. Why does nobody explain this at the appointment? Honestly, it is not a conspiracy, and it is not greed in most cases. It is time and habit. A routine physical is short, the checklist is long, and the screening schedule most doctors carry in their heads was built and tested mostly on people in their 50s and 60s. Ordering the test takes 10 seconds. Explaining why you might skip it takes 20 minutes and a conversation about life expectancy that many doctors find uncomfortable to start. The path of least resistance is to check the box, and everyone in the room feels safer, even when the numbers say otherwise. Nobody is the villain here, but you are the one who lives with the results, which is exactly why you need to understand what I am about to show you. Let me introduce you to someone. Raymond was 77. A retired shop teacher from Spokane, Washington, the kind of man who still changed his own oil and walked 2 miles every morning with a thermos of black coffee. He slept well, ate reasonably, took 1 blood pressure pill, and felt, in his own words, better than he had any right to. At his annual physical, everything looked good, and as the visit wrapped up, his doctor said those 5 easy words. Let's run some tests, just to be safe. One of them was a PSA blood test, the common screening test for prostate cancer. Raymond did not ask a single question. Why would he? It was just a blood draw. A week later, the office called and said his number was a little elevated and they wanted a biopsy. Just to be thorough. Hold on to Raymond and that phrase, just to be thorough, because we are going to follow him through everything that happened next, and his story is going to carry us through all 5 tests. Before I tell you what the biopsy found, I need to show you the single most important fact in this entire video, the one that makes everything else make sense. This is the part almost nobody ever hears, and I want you to really sit with it. When researchers have performed autopsies on older men who died of completely unrelated causes, car accidents, heart attacks, pneumonia, they examined the prostate carefully, and in men in their 70s, roughly half were carrying some prostate cancer cells at the time of death. Half. Almost none of those men died from it. Most never knew it was there. They lived full lives, and the cancer just sat quietly inside them like a pilot light that never became a fire. Listen to that again. Half of men that age are walking around with cells that a lab would call cancer, and the overwhelming majority of those cells were never going to hurt anyone. If that lands on you the way it landed on me the first time I understood it, do me a favor and type the word quiet in the comments, because I want to know how many of you have never been told this, and honestly, your comment helps this video reach the next person who needs it. Here is the picture I want you to keep. Imagine cancers as three kinds of animals in a pen. Some are birds. The moment the gate opens, they are gone, so fast that no screening schedule on Earth catches them in time. Some are rabbits. They will escape eventually, but if you check the pen regularly, you can catch them first, and this is where screening genuinely shines. This is the rabbit hunt that saves lives in your 50s and 60s. And some are turtles. The turtles are never getting out of the pen. They are so slow that you will live your whole life and die of something else long before a turtle reaches the fence. Screening cannot tell you on the day it finds something, whether it has found a rabbit or a turtle. It just finds an animal and rings the alarm. And here is the cruel arithmetic of aging. The older you get, the more turtles you are carrying, and the less time any rabbit would even have to reach the fence. A rabbit that needs 15 years to hurt you is not a rabbit anymore when you are 77. It has become, for all practical purposes, a turtle. This is what I call the longevity lens, and it is the hidden cause behind everything in this video. Every screening test is a bet that pays off years in the future. A colonoscopy is like planting a shade tree. The shade arrives about 10 years later. The harms of the test, the prep, the sedation, the risk of a tear in the colon wall, those arrive today, at the exact age when your body handles complications worst. At 55, the bet is excellent. You pay a small price now and collect a large benefit later. At 80, you are paying full price today for shade that arrives when you are 90, while the risks of the procedure itself have doubled or tripled. Same test, same doctor, same machine, completely different bet. Now back to Raymond, because you need to see how this plays out in a real life. His biopsy found what pathologists call a low-grade cancer, the slowest, sleepiest category there is, the classic turtle. On paper, that word cancer looked terrifying. In reality, studies following men with this exact finding for years show that the danger of it ever causing harm is very low, and major medical groups now say the preferred approach for many of these is simply watching it. Raymond did not know any of that yet. What Raymond knew was that 3 days after the biopsy, he woke up at 2 in the morning shaking with fever, because a biopsy pushes a needle through tissue that is not sterile, and infections happen more than people think. He spent 4 nights in the hospital on intravenous antibiotics. A 77-year-old man who had felt better than he had any right to, hospitalized, weakened, frightened, and he did not have a single symptom before any of this started. Nothing hurt. Nothing was failing. A checkbox did this. And the machine was only warming up, because when he recovered, there was a folder waiting for him with a surgeon's name on it, and that is the chair from the beginning of this video. Before we follow him into that room, I want to zoom out, because prostate testing is only the first of the 5, and the pattern you just watched has brothers and sisters all over the standard checkup. This pattern has a name, by the way. Doctors call it the cascade effect, and it works like pulling a loose thread on a sweater. The first tug is tiny, a blood test, a quick scan. But each finding obligates the next step. The blood test demands the biopsy demands the follow-up finds something else, and each step is riskier than the one before it. Another way to picture it is a row of dominoes where only the first one is optional. Once your finger pushes that first domino, the rest fall on their own schedule, not yours. The only moment you truly control is the moment before the first test. Remember that, because the question I promised you lives exactly in that moment. Test number 2 on my list is the routine screening colonoscopy after 75. Notice every word there. Not the colonoscopy you get because you are bleeding or your bowels have changed. That is not screening. That is investigating a symptom. And it can absolutely be the right move at any age. I mean, the every 10 years, no symptoms calendar says so, colonoscopy. The United States Preventive Services Task Force, which is the independent panel of experts that grades screening tests for this country, stops routinely recommending it at age 75 and advises against it after 85, precisely because of the math we just walked through. Colon polyps are famously slow, often taking 10 years or more to become dangerous. There is your shade tree again, while the risks of the procedure, a perforation of the colon wall, bleeding, complications from sedation, climb steadily with age and land hardest on the very people still dutifully showing up for them. Many people in their late 70s have simply never been told that the guideline changed underneath them. The reminder card does not know how old you are. Test number 3, and this one may sting a little, is the aggressive end of PSA and mammogram screening in later years, especially when earlier results have always been clean. You already watched the PSA story happen to Raymond. Mammography has its own version of the same arithmetic. For women well into their 70s and beyond with no symptoms and no strong risk factors, the same task force concluded there simply is not good evidence that continuing routine mammograms helps past the mid-70s, while the well-documented harms, false alarms, repeat imaging, biopsies of things that were never going to matter, keep right on happening. Some breast findings in older women are textbook turtles, so slow that treating them means enduring surgery and radiation for something that would have politely minded its own business for 20 years. I want to be careful and fair here. A woman with a strong family history, or anyone with an actual lump or change, is in a completely different conversation, and that conversation belongs with her doctor. I am talking only about the automatic. No questions asked. Annual scan of a body that feels fine, continuing into the 80s out of pure habit. Quick pause here because I am curious about something, and the comments on this channel are half the reason I make these videos. How old are you, and are you watching this before or after one of these tests entered your life? Drop your age below if you are comfortable. It genuinely helps me make the right videos next. Test number 4 is the cardiac stress test with no symptoms. This one surprises people the most, because it feels so responsible. Get up on the treadmill, let them watch the heart under load. What could be wrong with that? If you have chest pressure, unusual shortness of breath, symptoms, then stress testing is a valuable tool doing exactly what it was built for. But run on someone who feels fine, it becomes a coin flip machine. In people without symptoms, it produces a steady stream of false alarms, squiggles on a screen that look concerning and turn out to be nothing. Every false alarm buys a ticket to the next domino. A scan with contrast dye that can stress older kidneys, or a catheterization, which means threading a wire into the arteries of the heart, a genuinely invasive procedure with real risks. Follow the chain, and you can arrive at a stent placed in a person who never had a single symptom, carrying all the risks of the procedure and the blood thinners that follow. With no evidence, it will help them live one day longer, because in stable disease without symptoms, that benefit has never been shown. Major cardiology groups themselves list routine stress testing of people without symptoms among the practices to avoid. The heart is one place where feeling fine, at any age, is genuinely powerful information. Test number 5 is the one almost nobody in my comment sections has ever heard questioned: the bone density pipeline. The DEXA scan itself is gentle, just a low-dose X-ray measuring bone strength, and checking bones after menopause or a fracture is reasonable. The trouble is what the report does next. The scan hands back a score, and that score is graded against the bones of a healthy 30-year-old. Let that sink in for a second. Nearly every person over 75 on this planet has thinner bones than a 30-year-old. The same way nearly everyone over 75 has grayer hair than a 30-year-old. The scoring system converts ordinary aging into a diagnosis, a category called osteopenia, which sounds like a disease and is really a description, and the diagnosis flows straight into a prescription, usually for years, for medications that have real benefits in people at genuinely high fracture risk, but also real side effects, irritation of the esophagus, and with long unbroken use. Rare but serious problems, including unusual fractures of the thigh bone, the very thing the pill was meant to prevent. A number on a scan becomes a label. The label becomes a pill. The pill becomes a decade. And at no point did anyone break a bone or feel a thing. For a person at high risk who is already fractured, that pill can be a genuine gift. For a healthy, active 77-year-old with a borderline score, it may be one more domino that never needed to fall. And I will fold in the bonus test here because it follows the identical script, the ultrasound of the neck arteries in a person with no symptoms. It sounds so wise. Check the pipes to the brain. Yet the expert panel actively recommends against it in people without symptoms, because the false alarms lead to surgeries on the neck arteries that carry their own risk of causing the very stroke everyone was trying to prevent. Are you starting to hear the same melody under all 5 of these? A test built for younger bodies or sicker bodies, aimed at a healthy older body, finds a turtle or a false alarm, and the cascade does the rest. Now let us go back to Spokane, because Raymond is sitting in that surgeon's office, and this is where his story turns. The surgeon was a good doctor, walking him through an operation to remove the prostate, and Raymond, still pale from his hospital stay, was ready to sign anything with the word cancer chasing him. His daughter, a nurse, asked him to get one more opinion first. The second doctor did something that took 11 minutes and changed everything. He put down the folder, looked at Raymond, and asked, "Before we talk about what we can do, can I ask what this finding would actually do to you if we did nothing at all?" Then he walked Raymond through everything you now already know: the turtle, the autopsy studies, the fact that surgery at his age carried meaningful odds of leaving him in diapers, and that for his low-grade finding, careful watching, with periodic checks, is a respected, evidence-backed path that lets men live out their lives intact. Raymond told his daughter afterward that it was the first time in 3 months anyone had talked about his life instead of his lab values. He chose surveillance. That was 3 years ago. He is 80 now, still walking his 2 miles, still changing his own oil, and his turtle is still a turtle. He will tell you plainly that the system did not almost kill him with cancer. It almost took his last good decade with a cure. And that question the second doctor asked, that is the question I promised you at the start of this video. Here it is, clean and simple, the one question that stops the first domino. If this test finds something, what will we actually do about it? And will doing that help someone my age live better or longer? Say it in your own words, but ask it before the test, not after, because before the test, you are a free person making a choice, and after the test, you are a patient inside a cascade. If a test result would not change anything you and your doctor would actually do, or if the payoff of acting sits 10 years past where the honest math of your life reaches, then the test is not protecting you. It is only exposing you. If you have lived some version of Raymond's story, or watched it happen to someone you love, type the word cascade in the comments. I read them, and those stories tell me what to make next. And if this video has already changed how you will handle your next physical, this is the moment I will gently ask. If you have not subscribed yet, do it now, because this is exactly the kind of thing I make every week, the conversations that do not fit inside a 15-minute appointment. Now let me turn all of this into a plan you can actually use. 5 steps, starting this week. Step 1, bring the one question to every proposed test and add its 2 companions. What happens if we find something? What happens if we do nothing? What are the risks of the test itself? Those 3 together force the whole cascade out into the open before the first domino moves. And any good doctor will respect you more for asking, not less, because you are giving them permission to have the honest conversation the checklist never allows. Step 2, learn to separate screening from symptoms, because the entire message of this video applies only to testing a body that feels fine. New bleeding, a lump, chest pressure, real shortness of breath, sudden weakness or slurred speech, unexplained weight loss. These are warning lights on the dashboard, and they deserve prompt attention at any age, 75, 85, 95. Never let anything I have said today talk you out of investigating a real symptom quickly. The dashboard light is your body speaking. Screening is going looking. Different rules entirely. Step 3. Ask your doctor to talk with you about time to benefit, which is simply the shade tree idea in respectable clothing. Ask how many years it takes for this particular test to pay off, and have the honest conversation about whether that timeline and your health picture fit together. This is not a morbid conversation. It is the most respectful conversation in medicine, because it treats your remaining years as precious rather than as a checklist. Step 4. If you are already inside a cascade, pause it and get a second opinion before any irreversible step, exactly the way Raymond did. A biopsy result can wait 2 weeks. Almost any scheduled procedure for a screening detected finding can wait for one more set of eyes. Surgeons operate, that is their tool, and a second doctor, whose only job is to look at the whole picture, may see a turtle where the first saw fire. Nothing about seeking that opinion offends anyone. It is your body and your decade. Step 5, and hear me clearly on this one, never stop, start, or change any medication or cancel any planned procedure on your own, based on a video, mine or anyone's. If tonight you are holding a bone pill in your hand, or a colonoscopy appointment card on your fridge, and this video has raised questions, wonderful, that is exactly what it was for. Now take those questions to your doctor or your pharmacist, and have the conversation with the person who knows your full history. This video exists to make you the best informed person in that exam room, not to replace the room. Everything here is education, and your own decisions belong in a real appointment with someone who knows you. Here is the thought I want to leave you with. There is a strange courage in being tested for everything, and a wiser courage in asking whether the test serves you. Your body at 75 or 80 is not a machine in decline that must be inspected relentlessly. It is a body that has carried you this far, that is full of quiet turtles that will never leave the pen, and that mostly needs you to protect it from two things: real symptoms ignored, and healthy years spent inside a cascade that a single question could have stopped. Feeling fine after 70 is not luck waiting to run out. It is information, and now you know how to defend it. Before you go, think for a second about who came to mind while you watch this. The husband whose reminder card for a colonoscopy at 81 is sitting on the counter right now. The sister who just got called back about a scan and has been sick with worry over something nobody has explained to her. The friend headed to a physical next week who says yes to every checkbox because nobody ever told him he was allowed to ask questions. That person will almost never go looking for this video on their own. People rarely research a test they trust, which means you may honestly be the only way this ever reaches them. Share it with that one person today. It costs you nothing, and it might hand them back a decade. And if you want me to keep explaining the things nobody takes the time to explain, the real machinery behind the advice you are handed, subscribe and stay with me, because there is a lot more your body is trying to tell you, and a lot more the schedule is not telling you. Next week, I'm going to show you what your medication list looks like through this same longevity lens, because there is a point after 70 where certain everyday prescriptions quietly flip from protecting you to working against you, and almost nobody reviews the list to catch it. You will want to see that one with your pill bottles in front of you. I'm Dr. James Weatherly. Take good care of yourself this week.